Welcome to this first episode of Disruptor Talks. The purpose of this podcast is twofold and intertwined. Firstly, to demystify the world of venture capital for budding and aspiring entrepreneurs, and to do this by having disruptors who've done this before to come forward and tell their story. To keep this nice and crispy, we are going to try to keep it as conversational as possible and under about 10 questions. As a quick background on us, we are Disruptors Capital. We are an early stage venture capital fund. We invest in technology businesses in India, Southeast Asia, and the US. In a nutshell, we like to invest in businesses that build for a global audience. On that note, I'd like to introduce our first guest, founder and CEO of Playto Labs, Pavan. Pavan, good to have you here. Pavan heads this company called Playto Labs. It's one of our first portfolio companies as well. Playto Labs is an online robotics learning platform leveraging smart modular toys. They're essentially building the Toys 3.0 space, which takes into account the hardware, the software, and an online learning pedagogy. Their toys are highly modular and programmable. They can be used in conjunction with a lot of household items to build exciting products, which makes learning and technology fun for kids. On that note, I think we'd love to hear from Pavan. Pavan is a serial entrepreneur. He has done a startup in the edtech space before. So to kick things off, Pavan, we'd love to know a little bit more about your journey and how we arrived at Playto.
Sure, Raj. Thanks. My interest in experiential learning started as a student at IIT Kanpur. I was doing a lot of things in the robotics club and neuromodeling club, building things, breaking them, building it again, right? But then at that time, I thought this is all just waste of time and grades are the only things that matter. Then after IIT Kanpur worked with JP Morgan, quickly realized, I wanted to do something more impactful and challenging. That's how my journey into startups began. Then I joined a startup first before starting up on my own, which was into business analytics. While doing that, I actually interviewed candidates, freshers coming out of college into the startup I was working in. And that was where I realized that students who come with this hands-on experience, they're actually performing much better. They're much more employable than other students, right? That's how I was able to connect the dots. And since I anyway like doing that, so I went back to a few colleges and I said, hey, will you guys be interested if I do some fun hands-on employability enhancing program? And the response has been great. So we had paying customers already, and so that's how my journey into entrepreneurship began. And we were doing this offline initially because these were those days when internet is not as available as today in all parts of India. So we trained more than 1 lakh students face to face, and that gave us a great understanding of how kids learn, how students learn experientially, what kind of challenges they face, how do we design the right kind of curriculum, and all of that. And in the process, we also ended up writing some papers, authored some papers on project-based learning or some awards for our work in this space and all of that. Then we pivoted to an online just as internet penetration started happening. So then we launched Sci-Fi Labs as an online platform, online experiential learning platform. These courses reached more than 400,000 students across 67 countries at this point of time. So it's been a great journey from that perspective. And while doing it, that's when we realized that, hey, this hands-on experiential learning has a lot more impact at a much younger age than what we're doing at an undergraduate level. So there it began. There we started exploring a bit more about, hey, in the meanwhile, I became a dad myself, so started to think of it from parents' perspective and got a very clear understanding of how parents think of it versus how I was thinking before I became a parent myself, right? So all things happened, and that's how the idea of Playto has come up.
I know, becoming a dad was also one of the catalysts to your getting Playto in motion, and a lot of validation actually started off from there. Could you shed some light on how you went about validating Playto as a good business proposition? Because you had been an entrepreneur in edtech before the entire boom around online learning started. So could you shed some light on how you thought that, given how market dynamics are changing, how you would validate a product like this?
Right. So for us, fortunately, the validation was easy because of a prior experience. And I mean, they were already running Sci-Fi Labs. And what happened, interestingly, at Sci-Fi Labs is that parents started approaching us and saying, hey, do you have programs for kids? I see only programs for undergraduate students on your website, but I want my kid to learn this stuff too. And we were like, hey, why do you want your kid to learn this stuff? Remember, I was not a dad at that point. So I was like, why do you want your kid to do this? Let them go and play. There's a lot of time for this. And but these parents kept coming back, right? And there's one parent who was like, you know what? Can I enroll for this course, which is for undergraduate students? Learn myself, and I'll train my kid at my home. Is that okay? So then we started like, okay, if people are asking so much, so there must be something. So we started talking to these customers. We said, okay, let's go and understand what they really want. That was when parallelly I became a dad simultaneously, and then I was able to understand things much better from my own perspective, talking to other parents and talking to our customers who were knocking our doors, asking for such kind of courses. So, and of course, on the other side, on the market opportunity is really big. Looking at how the early age education is happening and the number of students are coming online. We're seeing an online first generation, right, in terms of students
Right.
starting to learn online right from pre even before coming to school, right? So all these things came together, and that's how the validation happened. Both I would say both from a scientific talking to customers, understanding what they want perspective, as well
Right.
as my own personal experiences
Right.
of being a dad and seeing my own daughter play with toys. And she never went to school because of the pandemic, but then she learned so much just by playing with toys. And then I realized toys are not just things that waste time, but there's a lot of learning
Right.
that can be gained from toys. And my experiential learning experience of building and training so many students, that all these things came together, and we
Oh,
said, hey, this,
wonderful. I
this sounds
think
very interesting. Let's do
at this
something.
point, I'll also reveal one of the reasons that we had invested in you, right? In our experience, we've been bankers before. We've seen a lot of companies grow, and for a lot of serial founders, we found that there is a method to their business validation which differs from a lot of people who are doing it the first time, right? Just to put another spin on this, it's if there's somebody who comes from a very strong consulting kind of a quant background, their business validation will be very, very quant heavy, right? Just either a top down or a bottom up perspective on the market, and take it from there, right? Or it'll be very experienced founders who are not looking at the numbers and who are purely doing it on instinct, right? One of the things that I think right off the bat I liked in our first conversation was that you were a very nice blend of both, right? There was quant which was done to prove that this market is huge. I think that number is something like over $24 billion in smart toys or something like that, which is being spent, right? But at the same time, you also had the entire instinct which had come from your experience at Sci-Fi Labs, right? So for those who are watching who think about how we people think on this side of the table, we like things like this. It's never any methodology which is on either end which works. It's usually a combination, taking the best of both worlds and moving it forward. I think it's a good segue for my next question, which is that you are a serial founder who's basically done Plato, which is the second time you're doing a 0 to 1. Uh, how easy or difficult was this phase for you following your first experience with Skyfi? Because now the market dynamics had also changed, right? So in light of all of that, how does the
Mm-hmm.
0 to 1 differ for a serial entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I think because we've already made a lot of mistakes the first time, so we've made a lot of them and we learn from them. So we tend to be a lot more rational. We don't give
Right.
into our biases. We learn to balance long term and short term at the same time. We learn to focus on things like NPS and customer satisfaction and retention right from day one, and not just on acquiring customers. So we don't lose sleep over
Right.
vanity metrics. We know what really matters. So focus on that. So these are some of the things which I think come
Right.
when
Is
you're doing it
there
for the second
um,
time rather
is
than
there
the
a
first
feeling of,
time. Yeah.
there's this whole concept which Zuckerberg had come up with of move fast and break things, right? With a lot of serial entrepreneurs, you find that they have kind of transitioned into move slowly and make things, right? Because what had started happening
Mhm.
was that people were using this move fast and break things as an excuse not to do their groundwork, right? So is that something that actually plays into your thought process as when you're building for the second time?
No, I don't think
Hmm.
going slow is what I meant. We definitely need to go fast. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, we
Right.
shouldn't go fast just for the sake of going fast. I mean, because there's a reason why I'm a second time guy, because first time I went fast and right, we probably made a lot of mistakes which are irreversible. So we need to maintain that balance of going fast at the same time making sure we're not doing something
Right.
that's irreversible, and we need to maintain that balance of doing things right and focusing on the right kind of metrics. Because and I think there's a time when you have to go slow
Right.
and there's a time when you have to go fast. When we're experimenting, when we're trying to discover insights, that's not the time to go fast. But once you have your things ready and once you know that is exactly what you're going to do, that's when you really build a team that can move fast. So I think that the balance has to maintain. At the same time, we also should know what stage we are in
Right. I think
at which
that's
point
a
of
very
time.
fair point. I'm guessing one of the points at which you were moving slowly was when you were testing out the product with the initial set of customers. Would love to understand what that process was like. What were the first initial reactions? What were your takeaways as someone who was building for the future? It'd be good to know the initial steps of of prototyping and things forward from there.
Right, right. So one other thing I had going well for me was the team that came over from Sci-Fi Labs, right? Which was there's some people who spent more than 5 years with me who understand this space very well, and so we were able to, already have a lot of understanding of the customers. We already have a set of customers that we can quickly reach out to, so and build the product. The team members knew what kind of products to build and all of that. So when we reached out to customers initially, we the questions were all around, hey, can this experience be so easy that because we are doing it remotely, right? There's a teacher who is remotely teaching a student, and there's a hardware element involved, and can we make it really engaging for the student? Can we
Right.
make it really easy for teacher to do it? Because in things like coding, for example, you can take over the screen and fix the bug for the student, but in hardware you can't really do
Right.
that, right? The student has to do it by themselves. So coming up with the right kind of a product which is easy at the same time challenging enough for the student, hitting that sweet spot was the challenge. So a lot of things for us was around giving the products to the students, coming up with various experiments, seeing how the response has been, and iterating on that. So that's been our journey to when we got to know that, hey, this is a product which is really doing well, and these are things that really matter,
Right.
in this kind of when we're building this kind of a product. Yeah.
At this point, would you like to tell us about the final product and the offering that Playto has at this point, and anything that you want to tell us about how it's going?
Right. So the product is, there's a hardware kit. It's a toy kind of thing that student gets, and then there's online missions, what we call as, which is, so you take a kit and then the student has to solve these missions one after another. It's more like a game that you're playing, and then as the student plays this game, the teachers are there. We call them coaches who help the students when they get stuck. To by asking the teachers' role is more to ask the right kind of questions to help students think while they're solving those missions. So a mission can be something like something as simple as, hey, how do you avoid your brother or sister from taking away your chocolate,
Right.
right? That you hit there, right? Can you build a system to protect your own chocolate, right? So to something as complex as, how do you how do you build a system that can pick and place things in an industrial robotic setup, right? So the complexity of the problems is very different and varied and personalized for each student, and every student has their own journey of solving these problems and keeping on progressing with the course, with the product, while teachers are more like enabling the students to discover and explore and come up with more ideas and learn in the process. So that's how a product currently works.
Right. How are you looking at your team build up to build something like this, right? And you've had your initial set of prototyping and business validation, and now you're ready to kind of go big. Um, how did you go about the process of team building from that point on?
Right. So in the initial stages, like I said, we had an amazing team from Sci-Fi Labs that's really passionate about the space, that understands the space and the product really well. That's a huge advantage I had, although I'm a solo founder to begin with. And then that helped us with that team. We were able to reach this stage where we are, right? But that said, I do think that it's very important to have this the 0 to 1 phase, and beyond that is completely different, and we need to build a very strong leadership team going forward. So we are looking to build a very strong team. We are onboarding some really good talent who can take up leadership roles. and including having a co-founder on board. So if there's somebody who is really passionate about this space and who wants to be a part of this journey, then definitely you should reach out to me.
Right. I think on that point, right? There is a fair amount of stigma which is attached to single founder companies, right? Especially from an investor perspective. And there are reasons for that. I want to understand from your point, has it been difficult? Have you felt that there has been something which is not complete by being a single founder?
No, I think it's about we have to play to our strengths, right? So if you're starting afresh, then two co-founders is definitely better than one, right?
Right.
But fortunately, what went well for me is I had a team which is probably much better than a co-founder who with no experience at that point of
Right.
time, right? So we use that to move ahead and in our 0 to 1 phase of the journey. And I think investors also understand that from my conversation with investors. It's not like that's a fixed rule that you should have two co-founders or more than one
Right.
co-founder, but that's just from a skill set perspective, diversity perspective. You have having two co-founders is better than one, but investors clearly understood that we have a strength, not in terms of title of a co-founder, but in terms of the skills and passion of the team. We have that advantage. So
Right. What do you think from your perspective? How should investors look at single founder companies? And I'm happy to kind of give you my perspective on why that wasn't an issue for us. But from your side, what is a small suggestion that you would give investors looking at single founder companies?
look at the rest of the team, right? It's as simple as that. So, I mean, obviously, if you have very strong team which is really passionate and how what kind of incentives they have to contribute to the company and what kind of ownership they have with respect to that, and that really helps a lot. Although you're a single founder, I mean,
Right.
that's what's been working well for us so far.
Right. For us, I think, especially with you, Bhavan, the what I took away was that you'd already built a team through Skyfire Labs before, uh, with multiple de facto co-founders, right? And that is where, just having very simplified frameworks don't work. Whether in any industry, you have to look under the surface and make a judgment then. For us, I think it was extremely impressive that you had actually held on to the team which you had built with Skyfi, and they had held on to your vision to come through with Plato. So for us, that was a non-issue, right? But I think that is something which a lot of people want to know a little bit more about in this industry.
Sure.
Moving on, I think now we've gone from understanding how the product started to where it is now. One of the core pieces now, you guys are, I think, in over you have enrollments from some 30 odd countries, is it?
Right.
Well, I think during
35 countries now.
oh wow, and I think during the time that I had first met you, you're getting about a quarter of all the new customers through referrals, right? So there's a lot of word of mouth marketing going on, and very solid customer acquisition strategies which were put into place. For a lot of edtech companies now, customer acquisition has been a very difficult piece. How is it that you guys went about solving for this, and what made you believe that this is the right strategy from a customer acquisition standpoint?
First, I think the customer acquisition strategy, at least in the 0 to 1 phase, has been to go more organic, reach out to the right set of customers. We believe that having right set of initial customers is more important than having lots of initial customers. So, and we leveraged Skyfi Labs' existing network, which was already there. Skyfi Labs products were already there in 7 countries. So we leveraged that network and try to build things organically, try to reach out to the right kind of customers. And then we focused on giving them an amazing experience, which led to a lot of referrals coming from them. At this point of time, more than half of our customers are actually coming through organic channels, either through word of mouth or through by getting to know us about us from various other organic channels. And then there's a little bit of paid marketing that we're doing, and we think that's what we want to continue doing. Also, give an amazing experience to customers because these students are coming to us in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, which means they have quite a bit of time ahead of them, and building that amazing products, building those products that will
Right.
give them a wow factor plays a lot of role in keeping these customers with us for multi years. At the same time, these customers giving referrals and encouraging other students to come on board. So our strategy is going to be more around organic and giving great customer experience rather than pure performance marketing kind of thing.
Right, right. You guys have essentially built for being a company which is present for the global audience, right? So moving away from the Indian markets for just a second, China saw a huge crackdown on their edtech industry. I think it was a month or a couple of months back, right? Which basically finished a lot of the companies on that side of the globe. Uh, what do you believe is going to be the impact of that, especially from the perspective of an Indian edtech founder serving for a global audience? We would love to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Sure. I think Indian founders already have a great advantage because of the demand supply dynamics, having great a number of teachers, high quality teachers who can speak English and reach out to customers all over. And we already have 40% of our revenues coming from overseas. We already have paying students from 35 countries. And we see similar kind of numbers coming from other edtech companies already in India also. So I think India is in a great position today to target not just Indian market and actually try to reach out to the global audience and build global companies in edtech. Definitely, that's it, and then that's been one of the things we have been focusing on right from day one. In fact, if that's what we did at Skyfi Labs also, and that naturally came to us when we started working on Playto. So I think that's a great opportunity for all Indian edtech companies.
Oh, wonderful. I think you're one of the few people who's had this perspective, since 2010 or so, and watching the edtech space mature. What are your thoughts on the industry, especially edtech in India, for let's say the next 5 to 10 years? What are the things that you are actually looking out for and leveraging going forward, building Plato?
Sure, sure. So I think tech so far has been more around test prep, which is basically reaching out to students of grade 7 and above. Whereas what really excites me now is the fact that the students from grade 1 to grade 7 are actually coming online, and this number is going to be much bigger than the test prep market itself, right? And of course, there's this global opportunity in addition to that. And the other exciting factor for me is the emergence of these modern educated parents, right? We're first time seeing a huge chunk of parents who are actually educated and who think about their children's education, which was not there in previous generations. Previous generations was all about whatever the school teacher says, that's what has to happen, right? I think this combination is what really excites us, and we think that if we actually build great products for kids, which kids really love, and parents can see value in, that's going to be amazing. So, and we are focused on that, on exploiting that opportunity and really build those great products.
No, Pavan, you are one of them modern parents who've actually built a company out of wanting the next generation to do well. And we wish you all the luck. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being partners with us. I'm really excited to have Disruptors Capital on board, and I really enjoyed all the conversations I had with the team, be it with Krishna, with you, or with other partners. And I think the experience which our Disruptors Capital team brings on board, which is Krishna running a very successful tech company, or the rest of you having been with Ketal Advisors and having helped so many founders raise funds. I think that's a great team to have.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Hopefully, we'll have you on here a lot in the future, and wish you all the best.
Thanks, Raj.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks.